I definitely think it's something that can happen. It does seem like he's really disciplined. He really like he's not trying just to hype, all this stuff. He's trying to work the right way, build himself little by little from the ground up, and I respect that a lot. I think that we I think it has to be a fight that makes sense. I don't ever think that a guy that has no fight should ever, start fighting against somebody experienced just because it's really tough. It can happen. A guy can go out there and get a win. I'm not saying that he can't, but the probabilities are not that much. And if it goes wrong, it could even be bad. Like for if he wants to have more fights after that, just fun. So I would say like maybe start him off, with a guy that doesn't have more than 3 or 4 fights, and really, yeah, I think he can definitely like if he's taking it seriously, if he really sets up, maybe 8 weeks, a full training camp, all focus on that. I think he could go out there and do a pretty good job.
He's a blue belt, I think, in BJJ. So you'd think you'd have to match him up against a striker or somebody, not somebody who's a black belt in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, I think a black belt would be tough, but like it all depends also how his striking is and how his wrestling is. Because if you get a guy that is only a grappler that has no experience striking, maybe Mark could do good against him, just because keeping that distance, keeping the fight standing up. And I don't know, it would be interesting. I think it has to be a guy that has kind of like the same level of experience, because competing on combat sports is something that is not only about the technique and the skills you have, it's also very mental. So I feel like that would be an important thing. Like both guys are kind of having that experience of those nervous, that nervousness of starting something, of still beginning. If you get an experienced guy, that would be tougher.
Went back when CM Punk fought. There was some mixed reviews. People think he's belonged, but it seems like you respect what Mark's doing, and you'd be okay if he was to fight on a UFC card.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that nowadays we see so much more crazy things, with all that goes on in the world of fighting. I think a guy like Mark that, first he tries to build up the sport. He really tries to, showcase our sport in a great way and grow it. So I think that's awesome. Second of all, he's trying to go about it, let's say, in the best way possible, really working hard, not trying to hype anything, not trying to go and say that he's gonna kill, professional athletes. He knows and that he's starting and he's trying to build himself up. So I respect that a lot. And he is a super famous guy. So where is he gonna fight? I don't expect him to fight in a small show. So yeah, it makes sense for him to fight in the UFC. Obviously, I think the whole hype around it is because he is who he is and not because he's going to be an amazing fighter, but really see like can a businessman like that go and become an MMA fighter. I think that's what calls, what really brings light to that fight. So I think it's interesting for sure. I feel great, little by little, kind of realizing how everything happened. I feel like I left out a lot of the emotions before just so I could really focus and dial myself in and get in there and do what I had to do. And now I feel like all those emotions are coming back, and I'm really being able to enjoy more, to more and realize like how everything, happened and how I had a great fight week, great cut, and ended up with the perfect, fight and outcome.
Were you surprised how the fight went? There was a lot of grappling.
Yes. I didn't, that was not my game plan. That was not my game plan, but I kind of prepared for it because I thought Rafael would want to try to, out grapple me, tire me out, thinking that maybe I couldn't go the 5 rounds. So I prepared for that a lot. Greg and Saeed, they were always telling me, for me to be the first and the last man fighting, be able, to impose my will physically, not only be defensive in wrestling, but also be offensive. So that was our work during training camp. And I think it just went out there and really showed off in the fight because for some reason, Rafael was looking all the time for that clinch, and he just wanted really to put me in the cage and try to grind me out. And I was able to revert and just work that against him. And yeah, I felt like it was, during the fight, it just made sense. I was feeling that pressure. I was being able to really be the stronger man in there, just out muscle him and out control him and get the good position. So I felt this is the way, this is how I'm gonna get this win, and let's do it.
Where do you see yourself going from here? It looks like you're got out pretty unscathed, pretty healthy. Is there a time frame and is there an opponent that you have in mind?
Yeah, I do want to fight again this year. I feel like, I've been out for a year. That was good. A lot of rest, a lot of recovery, a lot of improvements and evolution. And now time to get back to activity. I feel like December, like beginning of December, would be the ideal day for me. I have a good time to get ready against a tough opponent. Hopefully, that's what I want. So, as I said, I'm eyeing the top of the division. You know, uh, it doesn't really matter what other people think. It matters what I think, and I think that I got to work my way all the way to the top now. So I'm eyeing that top of the division, and a fight like if I have a name that I could point out that is not in the division is Dustin Poirier, just because he is a big name. He is that exciting fight. I've always kind of looked like his style matched up against my style, especially now that I'm back. I'm confident again. I know that I can compete. I know that my body has recovered and that I can go in there and perform. Plus, I showed all my new skills. So I feel like it would be a super exciting fight. It would be a super, a fan, exciting fight because our styles match up really good. And I think this would be a great moment. So if he's down, I'm down December. We can line that up.
That sounds like a really fun fight that fans would like to see and that you both would respect each other because I'm sure you respect what he's done and it probably goes both ways.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I respect him in and out. I think that he's a beast inside that octagon. He goes in there and really fights. Kind of like myself. I go out there and do what I do, and it's always exciting. And outside, I think he's a great guy. With all the kind of like he does a lot of charity. That's something I admire a lot from him, and a family guy. Family oriented guy. True martial artist. So definitely a guy that I admire a lot, I respect a lot. And those are the ones that really get me excited to fight, because in there we know that it's all about honor, going to war and doing what we do.